All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our monthly All In for Kansas Kids Systems Building webinar, Strengthening Early Childhood in Kansas for March 12th, 2025. We appreciate you all for being here. My name is Julia Gress. I will be your webinar facilitator for today. My colleague Bree Houston is also here, who will be dropping a few relevant links into the chat. There are a few QR codes throughout the presentation. So we will make sure that those links end up in the chat for you for easy access. Today is our second webinar of the year. We were off in January. So as always, we're holding the webinar on the second Wednesday of the month. For all updates on the early childhood system, please sign up for that e-newsletter on the Children's Cabinet website. You can do so at going to www.kschildrenscabinet.org. Today is going to be a little different from some of our other webinars. Usually I do go through some early childhood systems updates at the end, but we wanted to give all of the space and time today to our presenters and to our audience if we have any questions that come up throughout the presentation today. So just be on the lookout in the e-newsletter for any of those early childhood systems updates. So today we have a panel presentation on opening childcare within schools. We have representatives from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, as well as the Kansas State Department of Education. We have some representatives from Child Care Aware, a Kansas State Fire Marshal, and also some local Unified School District reps that are here today on our panel that are going to talk to us about childcare in schools throughout Kansas. So to pass it over, I'm going to give it to one of my other colleagues, Megan Kluth, who really did all the hard work bringing everybody together today and kind of had this idea brewing through the Childcare Systems Improvement Team and some other work that she is a part of. So I'm going to pass it off to Megan. She will get us started, and then we will move forward with our panel presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Julia said, I'm Megan Kluth. I'm with the KU Center for Public Partnerships and Research, and I'm going to talk a very little amount because we have so many great presenters here today that I want to be able to focus on. So just to give you kind of a little bit of context as to why this topic and now, I think we know there are many school districts that are working with to set up early childhood learning experiences in their schools and just try to collaborate more in the early childhood space around childcare and just other family needs. And so we wanted to highlight some of the communities that have been able to do that around the state and also share some resources and processes available at the state level for anybody who's interested in doing that. And we know like no two situations like these are exactly the same. So most of our time is going to be spent letting you hear about some of the bright spots and the lessons learned from people from across the state that have been able to do this successfully. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand it to start to Amanda Peterson with KSDE and Melissa Schoenberger with KDHE.
Well, I can get us started, and then Melissa, you can go ahead. Hello, everybody. It is so great to see so many friendly faces today. We're really excited about today's conversation. My name is Amanda Peterson. I'm the Director of Early Childhood at the Kansas State Department of Education. And if you are a school district leader and you've ever called our agency to say, hey, I'm thinking about childcare and I'm not really sure where to start, odds are pretty good that eventually you will make your way to me and we'll have a conversation. So we're really excited about the opportunity to pull together some of the bright spots and lessons learned around our state. I'll talk for just a couple minutes because at KSDE, we are always happy to help districts as they are thinking through this kind of question. And sometimes, you know, we'll be visiting with a district leader and they'll be saying, we've got some people in our community, maybe in our board or in our school, and they're trying to understand why it is that we care about childcare. How does this fit into our overall goals for school improvement and our role and mission as a school district? And a couple of pieces to always keep in mind that I think are helpful, or some good pieces to have at our fingertips. One, we know that as educators, early childhood is such an incredible window of opportunity, right? To be able to help support our littlest learners in success later on. 90% of a child's brain architecture is formed by the age of 5, and in those early years, there's more than 1 million neural connections happening every single second. So anything that we can do to help make the most of all of the learning environments and opportunities in those early years and help children be in safe, stable, stimulating environments so that they can be learning and growing is an incredible support for all of our work later on to support those students in their later success. We also know families are children's first and most important teachers, and many families in the state of Kansas rely on early childhood care and education programs to support their young children's learning. For 7 out of 10 Kansas children under the age of 6, all of the adults in their household are working. And so we know that childcare is a real need for working Kansas families. So we want to make sure that districts get connected with all of the right people and the right supports who can help them in this journey when they are seeing perhaps a need for childcare in their community and understanding that they might be well positioned to step up and fill in. A major and direct way that our agency supports childcare programs is through child nutrition programs, and you'll hear from Emily Bonilla in just a little bit. But oftentimes our role at KSDE is to help people understand this landscape and get them connected with the person who can best answer their question or support their need. So in many cases, that's the Kansas Department for Health and Environment or the Office of the State Fire Marshal. We also want to make sure that Kansas schools are aware of all of the different resources that are available to them through organizations like Child Care Aware of Kansas and others that they might not be used to working with in a K-12 context. So that's why we've had this webinar today. As always, we always are very happy to help you make connections, and it's very helpful for us to hear directly from school leaders what their experiences are like so that we can effectively partner with others at the state level and help effectively work together to help make sure that for school districts and for communities, they are well positioned to be able to operate childcare successfully when they need to. So Melissa, I'll turn it over to you to visit a little bit more about the role of KDHE.
Thank you, Amanda. It truly is, as Amanda illustrated, a partnership. And it's not just a partnership at the local or at the state level, it's really a local partnership because KDHE recognizes, and I am from the western half of the state, that we need sustainable communities, that, not to steal a tagline from Governor Kelly's State of the State address a couple of years ago, but when rural Kansas thrives, we all thrive. And so really continuing to have that lens and knowing that in many of our counties, our largest employer happens to be the school district. And so really making sure that we have that sustainability and that pipeline to attract, even in our frontier and rural counties, the strong workforce, which is the school district. So that being said, we really try to, and this is not a out of the box solution. We've been really utilizing this for many years, but really wanting to highlight the success is, and not every district is going to look the same. You might need a family child care home. You might need a child care center, or you might need an after school program, which is our school age programs. So every area and community and district is going to look different. And we love to honor that because that's how you best serve and meet your community's needs. I'm just really looking at space considerations. We're going to go this really high level that when we look at exclusive space that our child care law really requires that, but there is some consideration of looking at that shared space in some facilities and in elementary schools, just is my lens and some of the experience that we have, and really then working with the fire marshal. And then for those that may not be aware, if you're a community or a school district that's on, KDHE and KSD have a long-standing of a memorandum of understanding, which really does outline our whether or not a school district, if they're offering preschool, is required to be licensed. So if you ever have a question of, do I need this license, but maybe I need it because we want to serve families that are receiving subsidy, and we want to really be a connector in our community, we would be able to navigate that through and provide support and information of whether licensure is required for your community. And then as always, our next step after you get really excited and fired up after hearing about all of these amazing efforts at the local level is connecting with your local licensing specialist. And then the QR code is here to begin that journey and those next steps. And they would be able to provide support. But again, our goal today is to really connect and provide solutions that are sustainable for your communities and your school districts. And that being said, Megan, we will like to hand it off and hear from our communities.
Well, we will do that just in a minute. We have a few quick presentations from some of our state level partners and resources that you may also want to connect with if you are interested in this type of collaboration. So I'm going to hand it to Rachel Martin with the Kansas State Fire Marshal.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you so much for including us. So at some point in your journey to open childcare, you're going to have to contact the fire marshal's office to make sure that everything that you're doing is going to be code compliant. And that looks very different depending on what type of facility you're licensing. The requirements for an in-home facility versus a freestanding facility versus one in a school. There are a lot of very different variables. And I will be the first one to admit that fire code gets extremely confusing. There are days that I question everything that I'm reading. So what we have tried to do over the past year or so is make sure that we're providing consistency. As part of that, all childcare plan reviews, inspections, and everything go through the fire marshal's office. That way, all of the codes are being applied the same. All of the requirements are the same. You don't have any variations on that. The other thing we've done is creating the position that I currently fill, which is a code consultant. And basically my job is to help people understand what the code requirements are. So whether you're just kind of on a fishing expedition before you've really gotten started just to find out if it's even going to be feasible, or if you are in your licensing process and want to make sure all your bases are covered. We ask that you reach out to us. We'll walk you through the process, go over the different requirements based on where your facility is going to be, and try and make it as simple as possible to be compliant with all the fire codes. It's been a work in progress, and we have worked to kind of improve that process. It was a little rocky, but I think we've gotten to the point where we've got a good process down, and it's just more explaining the differences based on your situation. So I ask that anybody who has questions, please reach out to me. It makes my day go faster, and I love talking to people, so.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I will just note, like, if anybody has questions that they want to share during this, we're hoping we'll have some time at the end. Feel free to drop them in the chat in the meantime. All right, our next presenter is Emily Bonilla, who is with KSDE in their food program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Bonilla. I work with KSDE in the Child Nutrition and Wellness team. And so like Megan said, we administer the federal child nutrition programs for the state of Kansas. So those include like the school breakfast program, national school lunch program that we see in our schools, as well as the child and adult care food program. And that one is primarily targeted towards our child care centers, our daycare home providers. That can include pre-K, Head Start, as well as at-risk after-school meals. So there's kind of a variety of settings that CACFP can happen in. And like the others have said, we're happy to help schools looking to open childcare and become a part of the food program. We're happy to help navigate what would be the most advantageous, the most realistic for your program there. So lots of different options with the programs that we administer. One bonus, being a school district, if you're opening a child care center, we do have a streamlined application progress to become part of the child and adult care food program. So that does help that happen a little bit quicker than our traditional like community centers that are coming on our programs. I did want to mention just some slight differences within our school programs versus CACFP. So with our school nutrition programs, they're going to be offering breakfast and lunch to those children. So we traditionally see like pre-K kids under those school nutrition programs. But if you are like a traditional licensed childcare center with like infants up to age 5, that would be operated under the CACFP. And it's allowable to claim 2 meals and 1 snack or 2 snacks and 1 meal. So there's a little bit different there. And again, whatever works for your program of what meals you're interested in offering. And there's lots of different options. We do promote family style dining, depending on how your center is set up. But serve is also an option for those CACFP children as well. And then just a little bit about claiming. So the way we do our reimbursement is based on the number of meals that the program is serving. With National School Lunch Program or Breakfast Program is based off of individual eligibility. CACFP does look at claiming percentages of the population being served. With like Head Start and at risk, those are all can be claimed at the free level based on those income guidelines that the population being served, or that those Head Start kids are already being qualified at. So just a little bit about that, but that's in our online claiming system, and that's where our application is. We kind of bundle that all into one package. So that's part of that like initial application process to come on the child nutrition programs. And then just a little bit about the other services that we provide to our sponsors. So we do provide a lot of training year round on all different aspects of record keeping, meal service, menu planning, any piece of our programs we provide training on, technical assistance. We have area child nutrition consultants that are around the state. So they're living in those communities that they are assisting in, and they're happy to provide technical assistance as well. They conduct like our administrative reviews. They're the ones doing our training. They're going out and visiting sponsors and talking with sponsors and helping them with their operation of the child nutrition programs. So I am one of the people on our team that does review applications and helps schools, centers, all of our sponsors get on the program. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk through that process with you. And again, what it may look like with all of the different options that we have with our programs.
Thank you, Emily. There's a quick question in the chat. Which I feel like since you're on, if you don't mind addressing, we had a question about, can a KSTE preschool program be in both the food program and NSLP, excuse me?
So there are some requirements. Most of the time they would either need to be in one program or the other, depending on, especially with preschool. So one thing is that they can't jump back and forth between programs. So if they are in their preschool program, they would need to be claimed under that National School Lunch Program if that's part of what their programming is. If they're in the daycare setting, then that's where the CACFP comes into play. So it kind of, again, depends on the situation and what time of day, what program they're enrolled in at that specific time. But most of the time we just kind of have to look at the program and determine how the day is set up for those kids.
Thanks for answering that. Okay, thanks again, Emily. Now we have Sarah Menschel with Child Care Aware of Kansas.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be a part of this panel with these awesome partners. And we are going to hear in a little bit about a partnership that we had the opportunity to work with one of the schools that you'll be hearing from. We are excited to be able to be a part of the conversation with you all as you're exploring entering into childcare and what that looks like. We would love to be a part of the conversation right out the gate from the get-go. We can then work with you all to help identify local coalitions, maybe some voices from those within the community that we work with as an organization at Child Care Aware of Kansas, to really help understand your specific needs to your community and how we can meet those. We also work very closely with communities and leaders that are oftentimes working to address some of these solutions. And so if we can really work together and join forces, we oftentimes are able to find a solution that's helpful for all the kiddos in the community. At Child Care of Kansas, we have a couple specific resources that really help when you are entering into this space of introducing childcare and dipping your toe in. We have the Child Care Go team. They are available to really come in and help identify specific challenges you may be experiencing. So this could look like navigating city ordinances, childcare capacity. We even work with programs to identify ordinances around having a childcare facility within a residential zoned area or operating hours, things like that, that can really help you navigate what this may look like in practice in your space, in your community. We also offer technical assistance for childcare providers. So as you are getting your feet under you and really building your program, we would love to work with you on introducing resources and ways to serve those kiddos 0 to 5 that align with really the standards as a state and best practices that we have implemented. And then we also have our community outreach and engagement team. This team is the one that is out there in the community, working with coalitions and really can help sort of be that ear to the ground for you all. So they are the ones who can help connect. Okay, maybe you want to introduce something like this for your school, but you don't have a space. But we do know of someone who may have a space that we could partner and figure out how to make that work for you all. We actually just met yesterday, and a few of our community outreach and engagement team members had a run-in with an armadillo. Like, that's how out in the community they are. You know, they're out there and they are ready to help and jump in to really help support tailored solutions for what you might need. And let's see here, what else do I have? We also did want to kind of call out that our role is really to be that thought partner. So, you know, we would love to help explore possibilities, troubleshoot challenges, and brainstorm solutions that would fit your needs. You may not know yet what it looks like, and that's okay. We would love to be a part of that conversation with you from the beginning so that we can walk alongside you and help you make those connections with some of these partners here on the call today and others locally. And another little piece that the team shared back with me that I thought was really just good food for thought and not a surprise to anyone, but recruitment and retention impact. Many schools that we have worked with or talked with or communities that have been able to introduce childcare have seen firsthand how it really supports teacher recruitment and retention. Providing childcare solutions really can be a game changer for these communities. As Melissa mentioned earlier, schools are a big employer in a lot of our communities. And, you know, we really want to make sure we're attracting high quality educators to your schools as well. So the next slide has our contact information, and that QR code you can go to for resources. That is my contact information there. And then Amanda Poiser is our senior program manager, who will likely kind of get you set up on first steps when you reach out. So please do. We cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, I know we are throwing a lot of information at everyone today, so hopefully it's not too overwhelming, but really wanted to highlight that for anybody who is considering this type of collaboration, there is support available at the state level. There are a variety of resources that you've heard about today. And next, you're going to hear from people that have experience with doing this. So I'm going to hand it to Laura Evans with USD 252 to talk about their experience.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So we started in 2015. We did start out with just preschool and 3 to 5 daycare. And then we ended up adding, sorry, my lights are weird. We started adding infants and toddlers in 2019. So I think there's like 5 things that I want you to know that I think are important. And the first thing is to make friends with your local surveying licensing specialist. And also somebody at the fire marshal office, because those are going to be people where you're going to be asking a lot of questions, especially your licensing specialist. And then the other thing that is really important that we started with was doing a community needs assessment and finding out what is needed within your community. If infants and toddlers isn't a need, maybe that's not what you start with. And there's a bigger need with that preschool age. And then finding those partnerships like Child Care Aware, that has been, I don't know that it was such a big thing back in 2015 when we first started, but now, and making our center better, it has been a huge support to us. We've been utilizing them as much as we can. And any other local community partners that you can find. We started our program with a partnership with Head Start, and that helped a lot. And then you also want to get your school board on board because they do, well, in our case, they'd have to approve it along with all of the things that are needed with KDHE and your state fire marshal. And then I would read and research and ask as many questions as you possibly can. Find a contact at another school district and go visit those districts that have that childcare within their elementary schools and see what that looks like. My email information is at the bottom of here. I love visitors. My childcare programs and my preschools are one of my favorite things to talk about. So anybody is always welcome, and we'd love to have you. One of the other thing is make sure you explore all of your options. There's a lot of different ways you can do childcare or preschool within your school district. Just make sure you know what those options are and what fits you the best. And then I think one of the biggest things that childcare brings to our community is our teachers and our staff love having their kids in the building, especially if you have babies. They're right there. And that is a huge incentive for our staff. We do have incentive for staff. If they have their children here, they do get a bit of a price break. So that is very helpful. And also having childcare and preschool within your school districts, you have access to all the resources that a school district has. So the librarian and PE, all of those types of resources, the playground. You still do have to follow the KDHE guidelines, but you do have access to more resources that your children can have access to as well. Our infants and toddlers go to PEP assemblies. So that is a huge thing for our community. One of the other big things is bridging that gap from early childhood to kindergarten. So that transition process has been a wonderful thing for our community, getting those kids ready for kindergarten. But one of the challenges that we've found is the expectation differences between preschool and early childhood and what those expectations look like in kindergarten, and having a difference and making sure that aligns as well. So I'm not going to talk any longer. I know there are 2 other great districts that have things to share, but it is a lot of work, but it is so very, very, very worth it. So that is our story at Southern Lyon County. That's Neosho Rapids and Olpe, and then we also have Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, next we have Amy Wallace and Katie Pickering from USD 331.
Hey, everybody. We are here in Kingman, Norwich, and just kind of highlight our program. We got the accelerator grant, which funded the construction for us. So we took a couple of classrooms in the elementary that were no longer being used. because the middle school moved up to our high school building and we created the center in that spot. We also joined the multi-age pilot through KDHE. And we initially applied to just do the home model, but when they approached us about the pilot, they encouraged us to go ahead and become a center because we had the space. And so that makes our capacity 48 kiddos. Our director is a certified teacher with an early childhood degree, and we've spent a lot of time and focus on salary and benefits. So we have great employees. We paid them an hourly rate plus an incentive bonus to get all their training. And we overstaffed our facility really at the get-go so that we could quickly take kids when they enrolled. But that is expensive. We are part of the CACFP food program. And we did obviously connect with Child Care Aware for resources. They've been a great help to us. And we have recently gotten DCF certified so we can take DCF payments. That was identified as a critical need in our area on our community needs assessment. So Katie's going to cover the rest here.
Another thing that we do is we have Arrowhead West out here, and so we've connected with them to provide services for children that we have in need to kind of get them ready, and then they're more readily available to join preschool, sometimes at an earlier age because of those needs. We also use Brightwheel. It just makes my job as the director so much easier. And we also hear really positive feedback from the parents. But I use it for billing, attendance, scheduling. Parents get to see all about their kid's day on it. So that's been a great resource for us to use too. One thing we weren't as prepared for was some negativity of local home providers in our area. So if you're wanting to go in this direction, just be prepared for some potential pushback, even if things show that there is a need for childcare in your area, there still might be some pushback. So just be prepared for that. With that, be very clear upfront about your funding with the school district and who is paying for what, and what things were funded by grants and whatnot. We're not really sure at this point if you can ever break even. If you pay for high quality employees, it will take time. So like Amy said, we overstaffed our facility, which has been great, but it is expensive. So, and then look for grants. They filled gaps with that income versus expenses. And there are a lot of grants available that you can apply for.
I know just one kind of big success, I think, for us. We want to use this to recruit and retain teachers, staff members, paras, custodians, whatever it may be. We did hire a counselor this year who had a baby. She was able to breastfeed her child right there in her building, which was awesome. And we did partner with our local hospital because they were in danger of losing employees for not having childcare options. And they were able to keep what they consider their best nurse. She went in to resign because she couldn't find childcare, and they said, hey, we're part of this cooperative with the school. We're going to have daycare. And now that nurse has 3 kiddos in our facility. The oldest is going to preschool, which is just a simple walk down the hall. We walk them back and forth. So no, parents don't have to miss work to come and transport. We're all right there. And so it definitely is a big selling point for your district and your community. What else? Anything else?
I just think in terms of pricing too, like when we made our handbook, we looked at surrounding areas and kind of found pricing based on that, to kind of fit in where we weren't like way above or way below what other people were charging. And then offering incentives like within your school district, if that's something you can afford to do, to help with teachers as well, retention as well.
We just opened in August, so we're still extremely, extremely new. But we would be happy to talk to anybody email, phone, come visit. We can share a lot. This was kind of a 2-year journey, basically, from when we started writing grants until construction was done.
Great. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add, Amy or Katie?
No, I mean, I would just echo, reach out to those resources. All the things that have already been mentioned were a great help to us. You know, don't try to reinvent the wheel. There are people that know the answers to all your questions. So, rely on them to help make the process as easy as possible.
Absolutely. I saw several nods as you said that. So I think there are there's a lot to be learned of both what's gone really well and where people have maybe, you know, had some challenges or had that unexpected armadillo in the road, to use Sarah's example earlier. So thank you for sharing, and I'm glad the resources have been helpful for you. Okay, next we're going to turn to USD 507 with Krista Phoenix.
Hi, everybody. I am the director here with USD 507 Satana Daycare. I have kind of a unique situation. I've been in childcare for over 20 years, ran my own in-home daycare, and then I've worked in a couple different centers. One other one was a school center here in Kansas. And then I came over to Satana to help get this center started up. We are a home-based center. We went with that just because of our building setup and just the needs for our community right now. That worked the best for us. We did partner with our local hospital, and so we split our spots evenly between hospital employees and the USD employees. So both sides are very flexible. If we have an open spot and somebody needs it from the other side, and we know we don't have anybody to fill it from one side, they've both been good to allow another side to take that spot, so we keep full. And we've actually had a waiting list since we opened 3 years ago. So it's been really good for the community. There's just not a lot of daycare here in Southwest Kansas. We're a very rural area. A lot of in-homes have been closing. The few that we have, you know, I think that we've done pretty well to partner with, because that, like said before, that can kind of be a sore spot for some people when you're opening, and, you know, maybe kids are getting pulled from theirs to come to yours because their parents are employees. Or one thing I've done with some of the in-home providers that I know is I've taken their information, because I get phone calls often for people looking for daycare, and we only accept USD and hospital employees' children at this time. So I always give them the other providers' information, and I've actually helped a couple different ladies start up at in-home in our community, which has been great because there's a huge need and we're not in competition with one another. So we just try to work together as best we can, and that's gone pretty well for us. We have myself, a full-time director. I have a full-time assistant that works with me, and we have other support staff. I have a couple high school girls that come in, seniors, and they close for us in the evenings, just so that we're able to, we don't run into overtime or anything like that. And then it's been really great because the district here has worked really well with us to ask, you know, some of their paras and other staff members that are willing to get their certification to sub, and then they will sub for us. So we've never really had an instant where we've had to close down because of, you know, not enough staffing. You know, if somebody's sick or out, we've got other subs to jump in, and that's been huge. In the previous district I was in, we really struggled to find subs, and this solution has been fantastic. So that's something I would suggest. Food program, utilizing childcare aware grants, Karen, our superintendent, has been wonderful to write us several grants, and we've been able to replace, because the building we were in is just right next to the elementary school, and it was built for a storm shelter, but it was also used for preschool. And so we kind of revamped that for our daycare, and it's worked really well. But when we first started, the playground had little pebble rocks, which, you know, with littles is not a great thing. So we were able to get a grant and take all of that out and put in a nice playground turf and a nice privacy fence, and just make it just an awesome place for the kiddos. And like they said before, it's not a moneymaker. It's not something that's probably ever going to be a moneymaker. But it's really a huge benefit to your employees, and in keeping good employees, if you have a great place and a safe place for their children to go. Parents are always welcome to come in. We have parents that come in and nurse, and parents that just stop in to see their child. And we come through the school often for things, and some will stop by and say hi to, you know, moms and dads, or sometimes grandmas, depending. We're in a small community, so a lot of these people know these kids, and so it's been a super great resource. We've had, I think one of the biggest things I would say is just working together, all together with your community, with your school, with your teachers and parents, and makes a huge difference, because they've just all jumped in to help in any way they could. And so for us, it's been an awesome experience. And, you know, I think for both of us, for the school board and the hospital board, have been very supportive, and they usually come by like once a year and talk to us and just see how things are going, and just keeping them involved in all that we're doing, and all the grants we've been able to receive to help just kind of with those expenses. So I think that's really, you know, I think everybody's covered a lot of it. So
Thank you so much, Krista. Great. Thank you to all of the presenters. What a wealth of experience and information that we have here today. We are going to have a good amount of time for questions. So I feel free to come off mute or drop them in the chat. I'm going to start with Lori had put a question that I'm actually going to direct back to Amanda and Melissa to start. Because a lot of school districts do not currently have space for early childhood education, I've heard that in some states a partnership is formed between community childcare centers and school districts. Is this something Kansas has considered? And then she also wanted to note she's interested in how the districts can help fund community centers with if they have partnerships as well. Which, Amanda, I just saw your response, so I'm going to hand it to you. If you want to share.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I know that we have quite a few both school districts and childcare providers who are here. So if people have good tangible examples of here are ways that we are partnering locally that are really effective, that's helpful. I think that Krista, you said it really well, that a great first step is to develop partnerships. And what I mean by that is just, you know, reaching out, if you're a school district, reaching out to childcare programs in your community, or if you're a childcare program, reaching out to the person who's responsible for early childhood at your school district, to just get to know one another and understand what your needs are, or what things everybody could be doing to help make the others work easier. I'm never going to forget a conversation that I had in a small Kansas community, maybe in 2019 or 2020, where there was a childcare facility and a school district that were right next to each other. It was like maybe a block. And the school had expanded their preschool offerings. And as they were getting ready to go, they hadn't thought a ton about transportation. And the childcare program was just walking a preschool classroom. It was a half-day program. They were all walking down to the school and doing drop off and then picking up the next class of children and walking them back to the childcare facility. And when things were getting started, everybody was like, that seems like a fine approach. Here we go. And then as the year got started, they realized that that was actually really difficult, that sometimes there was weather, and that in between the school and the childcare program, even though you could see the two when you were standing in the driveway, there was a house that had a dog, and the dog was kind of scary. And so every day the preschool students inevitably would walk past the house, and by the time that they made it past the scary dog and made it past whatever weather, everybody was just not really well prepared to have a good, productive afternoon. And when they got together to have this conversation, they realized, gosh, it would not be all that difficult for us to run a bus over and have school district staff pick up this responsibility. And that made a world of difference in that community. So my takeaway is just to talk to one another, to really understand what you need locally. Some good examples of things that we've heard before. One, appreciating that school districts do have resources that can do things like purchase instructional materials and professional learning. And so as a school district, when you're making those kinds of investments in your preschool or in your childcare program, figuring out, gosh, can we use our enhanced ability to purchase materials and our procurement opportunities as a school district, if we're already going to be purchasing materials or planning quality professional learning for our staff, do we have any opportunities to expand that so that we're making that available to others in the community? So can we purchase additional curriculum or additional manipulatives or whatever it might be so that we're making those available to those programs that we're partnering with? If we are already bringing in somebody to offer professional learning, do we have the ability to work together with KDHE to make it so that those that time can count for our KDHE clock hours, and identify a time of day when childcare providers can come too, so that they can have really quality professional learning, and so that our staff can be working together so that we can have shared expectations about how we can support our children in getting ready for kindergarten. School districts are also employers, and so I know that Childcare Aware of Kansas has some really great business center resources for employers as they're thinking about supporting their staff in childcare. So this can look like anything from contracting with a childcare program to reserve slots for staff. This can look like helping staff with flexible spendings accounts or other opportunities for staff to be able to afford quality childcare in their community. And then the piece that I think is most important when we're thinking about districts' opportunities to operate preschool, and Lori, I think this is where your question might have been coming from. In Kansas, the state law that allows districts to operate preschool also allows districts to contract with just about any type of entity to have that entity operate preschool on the district's behalf. And so we have many examples of Kansas communities who will contract with a licensed childcare provider in their community to have that provider deliver preschool. And so long as the classrooms meet preschool aged at-risk program requirements, then the students who are in those classrooms can be enrolled as students in the school district and counted in the school district school finance formula funding. And so in many cases, there's a contract between, we have longstanding examples in Wichita and in Pittsburgh and some other communities where the school district will partner with a nonprofit childcare center, but it doesn't have to be nonprofit. The childcare center will operate the preschool classrooms with teachers and staff who meet both KDHE childcare licensing requirements and KSDE preschool requirements. And those students are enrolled as students in the district, and the district flows through the funding that they get from the school finance formula to those partners. It's also really important that when we think about our preschool students with disabilities, districts have an obligation to provide services for those students in the least restrictive environment, which means that districts should first be looking to be able to serve those students in a regular education program before they look to transport them to a separate early childhood special education program to receive their services. So those are some options. I really appreciate that. I think everybody highlighted usually these are not money-making endeavors, and so it's really helpful for districts to be communicating to their boards and to their communities that there aren't other, besides the school finance formula, there aren't other, this is an investment that the district needs to make because they care about recruiting and retaining staff and because they care about having quality early learning opportunities in their community. But I'm sure that others have some thoughts as well about good opportunities to partner.
I'm going to just add on to that, Amanda, and really focusing in on the fact that over the last few years, so many of our communities have really circled around childcare and early childhood. And so we have lots of community coalitions. So if you've not connected with your local community coalition and your communities in action, really would encourage that organic community level. And really want to highlight also that I appreciated each of the panelists sharing this today, that we're not in competition, right? Every child deserves an opportunity to thrive in the environment that they're most comfortable with. And sometimes that is family childcare, or that is a more structured preschool. And really encouraging communities to really meet the needs of their children, and in addition to their employers or their employees. So as an employer, I'm always excited if it's a facility that is opened up as a benefit, because then I also see then that it's opening up more slots in the community, possibly. And so there's this reciprocal, just spirit when we have these facilities open up with the school district, that is a natural partnership to open up additional slots or free up slots in the community. So it's just such a positive, and because I think really Krista hammered this home, is not competition, really wanting to work within your community, because many even teachers that may be in the district may have been raised by some of these daycare providers that are still in your community, and still wanting to keep that spirit going. So, and what I really appreciate about our state is that we really look at solutions, and that best meets the children that we are all serving, because we have this cohesive and spirit together. And I really appreciate even just at the statewide, the partnership and the leadership that KDHE and KSDE have put together, so that we make it easier for facilities to open up and really try to, again, meet where the kids are. But I, again, encourage you to look at your local coalitions if you have not tapped into them as a first start. And I will throw it back to the panelists if they have anything else, Megan, they'd like to share onto that same question you had.
I'll just jump in really quickly, Melissa. I did share in the chat that Child Care Aware of Kansas has a resource around coalitions. We have a map where you can locate your county and you can see what phase that coalition is in. So is there a planning phase? Is there a coalition that exists? Are they fully, implemented and working together as a coalition? And then reach out to us, and we are happy to get you connected to that specific coalition as well. So I would encourage you all to take a look there, and please include us as you feel appropriate, because we would love to help you make some of those key connections right off the bat.
Thank you. I know we've got a couple more questions in the chat. Amanda, I'm looking at you. There's a question about how many school districts across the state are providing childcare programs. I feel like that might be a harder question than it sounds to answer.
It is, and others might have better information. So we've looked at this a couple of different times in the past with help from either KDHE as they're looking through their database of licensed childcare programs, or KSDE when we're looking at our food programs to try to get at a rough answer to this. Because we at KSDE, because we're not responsible for this question, we don't have a list on our end. We don't require districts to report to us when they are operating licensed childcare. So we're aware of at least 34 districts in the state who are operating a childcare program. And when people reach out to us, we've got kind of a standard email where we'll share, here's some people who we're aware of. But we always encourage people, again, to contact their local childcare coalition, because that coalition will be aware of if there's any good peers nearby who can support them in that. I'm not sure if anybody else has a better data source or better information to share there.
No, I would concur with you, Amanda, and I would even say it's probably more because of that partnership, that just because the district may not be the owner operator, but may be a part of that community partnership and still have some slots available. So I would venture to guess that it's number would be higher, but we as a system need to do a better mapping of that because those look different when, you know, licensed, because it might be not through the school district. So that is now on my to-do list, Amanda. So we have a comprehensive list.
Beautiful. I will also say that when folks are thinking about what services districts offer, being aware that every single one of our 286 school districts in the state is responsible for providing preschool services for preschool students with disabilities. So that is something that every district in the state is responsible for doing, either by themselves or with a special education partner. And then of our 286 school districts, I think we're up to 266 who have approved preschool aged at risk programs, which is general education preschool. That's not exactly what we're talking about here because those are typically programs that are exempt from KDHE childcare licensure, but I think is just helpful as people are appreciating what districts might be doing when it comes to this question.
Great, thank you both. Perfect, Laura. I just saw that you responded in the chat to the question about your incentives for employees. Do you want to share any more?
Yeah. So the one that we have is they have a % off of the childcare weekly rate. If you're a staff member in our school buildings, it doesn't matter what kind of staff member you are. You could be a preschool teacher, you could be a janitor, you could be a bus driver or the principal. That's one that we've had. But the way that we've been able to do that is through grant funding. But that's something that we wanted to make sure our staff has had access to. Grant funding, I think, is also one of the biggest components of our sustainability. Like several others said, it's not about the money at all. But one of the downsides of childcare in Kansas and probably across the United States is staff do not get paid well at all. So looking for the grants that are available to help sustain your staff, and more importantly, use those grant fundings either to help with your salary, startup costs, but salary and retention bonuses. That has been a wonderful thing that USD 252 we've always utilized when there has been grant fundings. The state level, the Children's Cabinet, and at the state level, there is a lot of funding for early childhood now, and specifically around childcare. So get on those listservs, and I know Amanda or Megan or Melissa, they can share that information out.
We do the same. Our staff also get a discount. We do 10% if you work for our school district.
Yeah, ours is 10% also. I've also heard like $50 off a week or just various things. It just kind of depends on what you can afford.
Nothing.
Thank you all for answering.
Right.
We can't afford any of it, but we're doing it.
Even that little bit helps, though. I think our staff was so thankful because it does add up over time.
For sure. For
I
sure.
had my daughter 3 years ago, before this was a thing. And I just think, I'm pregnant right now with my son, and I can't imagine seeing the shift, being working here, knowing that as a teacher in this district, I could have had this be accessible to me. I think it's such a benefit in our community. And so I think school districts coming together to have a childcare facility is just huge. I think it's very beneficial to parents.
Mm-hmm.
We've also gave first priority to staff for those spots, and that does move people up on the wait list. Are you guys the same?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We just think like for our staff too, I mean, my kids are grown mostly, but the stress of just getting ready for work, and some of the people that we're serving had multiple drop-offs because maybe their provider couldn't take a baby, but this provider could take the toddler or whatever. And you think the stress those people are under getting to work, we're getting such fresher employees. We're less stress for them. They can go see their kids during the day. It's just, there's so many kind of hidden wins, I think, that really don't come out on paper. It's just in job satisfaction, life satisfaction, reducing stress, that kind of thing.
Well, what a great note to end on. Thank you all so much. We had one more question. If we don't mind running over for just a minute, I'm going to let this question go. Scott asked, for any of the districts, do you use point-in-time data to set your fees?
We do like research the area childcare centers around our county and neighboring counties, and then Childcare Aware has an awesome data that they pull that information for you, and you can look up the average for any county in Kansas.
We did the same thing, and we're very close to Sedgwick County, but we're not big like Sedgwick County, so we knew we needed to maybe focus on smaller counties surrounding us, and that's kind of how we found our pricing, was through that Childcare Aware site.
We did
Sarah,
the
we were
same thing,
just-
just researched other centers, sorry. So that's the theme with us. We researched other area centers and went with that.
And Sarah Minshall, we were just visiting about this earlier this week. If a school district is trying to put together their program plan and their budget and think about setting fees and all of that kind of stuff, is that something Childcare Aware of Kansas can help with?
Absolutely. We would love to help with that. We have access to data about fees within your community there. We also can really help understand what solutions best maybe suit your needs. So, as we heard from some of the panelists earlier too, there are other solutions that can be considered, and they can also really help support the staff. So we would love to get in there and help support you with fees, help support you establishing some business practices, help you, just really help support you in this most well-rounded way that we possibly can.
Hey, well, thank you all so much for this very robust discussion. You have everyone's contact information, or will, following this presentation, on the slides, and it's been recorded if it's helpful to go back. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. What a wealth of information that you shared. I hope this is, for those of you thinking about entering this space, like the first of many steps to come. And just as a reminder, there are a lot of your peers across the state that have been able to do this or are learning alongside you, as well as resources available. So thank you for your time today, and reach out if we can do anything to support your work.
Yes, thank you everyone so much for being here. We appreciate your time. Just real quick, if you're still here, I just wanted to give some reminders and next steps for some meetings coming up. The Early Childhood Recommendations Panel is 2 weeks from this Friday on March 28th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. The next Children's Cabinet meeting is going to be held on Friday, April 4th from 9 to noon. And then our next Early Childhood Systems Building webinar is on Wednesday, April 9th from noon to 1. And as always, you can find all of these meetings recordings on the Children's Cabinet YouTube channel. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next month.